Hey dads, welcome to Father Figures, a podcast dedicated to you, a dad trying to manage and grow your business while being the best family man you can. I'm bringing together dads from all walks of life who live by the mantra family first, business second. With guests and solo episodes, we'll dive into the lives of dads all over and hear how they manage being the best dad they can, what has worked, and what needs improvement. We'll discuss being a good spouse and role model and dive into the constant pull we have to grow our businesses and support our families financially while supporting them emotionally. Can't wait to have you on this journey. Let's jump in. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Father Figures. I've got Soji James with me. You guys are going to absolutely love him. Dad, business owner, absolute hype man. Energy through the roof. I absolutely love it. You will never be bored talking to him, and you'll never feel as good talking to him because he just pumps you up. I can only imagine what his kids think when he's always excited and talking them up. And I'm excited to dive into this a little bit. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? Give us an idea of the family and everything you got going over there.
First of all, I really wish I had like one of those sound alarm clocks and to just play that intro for me every day because you made me feel like the GOAT. You made me feel amazing. You got to send me that clip. My name is Soji James, ladies and gentlemen. I am a strength coach. I'm a meditation and breathwork instructor, and most importantly, man, I'm a father, right? And I'm based out of New York City. I help people, cross the gamut between building strength, improving performance, but also people who just want to be a little bit more mindful and calm in their current existence. So I'm kind of working through this business right now while raising a, soon to be 4-year-old, a 21-month-old, and they're both actually home for the summer. So luckily I got a kettlebell in front of the door right now because these kids would be in and out during our podcast recording. So it's been great so far. I mean, I'm really excited about what the summer's going to look like, just having a little bit more time with them home full time for right now, and kind of figuring out how to run the business and making the two work in cohesion, man. Because I think that's extremely important. And for me, it's just important for them to see me chasing a dream and building something awesome. But they're not only an extremely motivating factor in me going out and doing so, man, but I just hope to inspire them to go out and chase the things that they want to accomplish and create in this world, right?
Yeah.
And I'm excited to be here with you, brother. Love your vibe, love your energy, love the message of Father Figures. And I'm excited to chop it up, man, and be a part of this awesome podcast. So thank you very much for having me.
No, I appreciate you coming on, and I love the strength and conditioning coach as a kettlebell blocking himself in the room.
Come on, we got to make those things. We got to multitask work with them. You feel me?
I do. I was actually just talking to someone before this about I was home with Sawyer yesterday. He doesn't have camp this week. Mm-hmm. And so we were talking, and I was trying to get some work done yesterday, and he's wanting me to do all this stuff. And I'm like, I wish I just blocked myself in the room. He'd be out there by himself, which I can't do. But it's hard to get stuff done with kids. Like you said, you're growing a business. You got 2 young kids, a year and a half old and a 4-year-old. Yeah. They always listen good, don't they?
Oh man, if that was case, right? But I totally hear you on that, man. Like, Sawyer's a legend. From just even seeing all the IG stories and just hearing about him from you and Julie, like he sounds like an epic little human. And I totally agree with you, man. It's a difficult pull, right? Like, you see their beautiful little faces and you really want to be fully immersed in them and a part of everything they got going on. But you gotta, it's tough. It's tough at times to find that harmony. It's tough at times to find that harmony. So I totally understand with you, brother.
Yeah. All right. So give us a little rundown. So how long have you been married for? Got 2 kids. So what else you guys got going on at the household?
At the household, right front. On the family front of things, man, look, what we wanted to do, I wish we'd have gotten done this weekend, but, just with the life be life at times and kids be kidding, we haven't got to do it, but I really want to kind of sit down and just essentially what I also do for my business. I kind of do like a 90-day, basically sprint where I kind of pick 2 to 3 goals that we're going to knock out, but I kind of want to essentially do the same thing for this summer for the family and just kind of see, put down trips, get the kids to a bunch of museums, maybe try a bunch of different new hobbies and try to spark some new interests inside of them. So we're in the process of putting that together for this week, because I kind of feel like I'm big with this with meditation and just life in general. Like the more intentional you can be with goals that you want to rise at, that's probably much more likely to ensure that you arrive at these goals or arrive at these goals.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely want to get that mapped out with the family. Yeah, I'm super excited about that, man. Super excited because I really feel like, my wife's a teacher, and for most of the year, she's quick here in the morning, and we kind of hang out for a little bit at night when the kids come home. But this is our first. The summers are our time as a family to really connect as a unit and really be fully immersed in one another. So, definitely want to be as fully like invested in making that. Like sometimes I feel like as well, business stuff may have to kind of take a little dial and shift to find that harmony. But I'm really excited about just kind of being able to grow and connect deeper with them, especially as the kids get older, man. A lot of these moments you just don't get back, right? So being
Yeah.
able to sit back and really appreciate them and fully be involved in them it's important. It's important to me at least, So in the stage I'm in my life. So
Well, I mean, as cliche as it sounds, and everybody says this, like you get 18 summers with your kids.
that's
Like
yeah,
18 is nothing.
that is at
It's the
all.
fourth. It's the 4th of July time right now, which
Man.
means summer's flying by. Your wife's gonna be thinking about back to school in a month.
Exactly. Exactly.
Don't
It's
don't cry when you're thinking about that, because I already am. Like, I cannot believe
yo,
how fast summer goes. But man, you only get 18 of them, and it is so true. It's like such a good tip to just map out the summer. Obviously, you want some freedoms in there to just do fun stuff, but
100%. Yeah.
it's like if you don't set an intention for it, like we want to go to these museums, we want to do these things,
Mm-hmm.
you'll get to end of August and be like, what did we do this summer? And then another one of the 18 gone. If you're
It's
lucky, you get 18. When the kids are older, who knows what they're going to want to do with mom and dad? You're not going to be
no,
as cool as you are now.
that's what I was just gonna say. I was gonna say, like, right now you were Superman and Batman and Spider-Man put together one. You are the superhero in their eyes, no matter what's going on right now, right? Like, you're right. As
Uh-huh.
they get a little bit older, you get different friend groups, and hey, who knows? You become less cool. You become less that time with you. Eventually becomes a little less with the sparkle in their eyes. So I'm definitely trying to max that out and maximize the time with them, and just show them how much I love them. I feel like I guess we all have different love languages and how we number one give those out, but also how other people receive them in terms of what their language is. And kids are probably still figuring that out. But time
Yeah.
spent, man, like those are the moments and core memories from my childhood that I remember. It wasn't like the money or the objects that were given to me. It was the moments spent with my father, the moments spent with my mother, and memories we made in that aspect. Those stick with me to this day. Those are like core memories of my life. So I hope by being a little bit more intentional, because I agree with you. I like the spontaneity of things too. Like, so I definitely want to leave, like, I want to plan to leave some space open to just do some spur of the moment things too. But I definitely always find if I'm not like intentional with the direction I'm going in, or things fall through the cracks. And
Mm-hmm.
this is something like with my family, just like with my business, like this is something I definitely don't want to fall through the cracks. Like I want to create as many core memories as possible. And just feel like these are also cool times to help just I saw Inside Out 2. We talk about family things. Inside Out 2, it's an amazing movie. You haven't seen it already. I saw that last week. We took Bernard, and it's like, there's this portion or section of the movie where it's a lot about, understanding emotions and feelings and thoughts, and just how actions we take begin to help us build this sense of self or our identity. And I find that like this summer, it's not just for going to the museums. It's not just the, trips to like maybe Sesame Street Place or something like that. For me, it's really like being able to spend a lot of deep foundational time with these kids and begin to help them start to develop a sense of self. And like, I'm really excited about that part, man. Like we play such a big role as fathers and as parents in our children's lives. And the more present we can be, I think it really sets them up for
Yeah.
success, man. So
Have you noticed, and you brought up the love languages? That's a really good point. The youngest, your youngest kid probably not so much, but your 4-year-old. Can
mhm.
you really tell what their love language is, and like what they love to like? Is it going out and doing something? Is it just sitting and watching TV? Have you guys kind of figured that out a little bit?
I would say honestly with Bernard, my oldest man, he is a very you gotta be he doesn't even care if you're not even paying attention to the same thing he's looking at, but he wants you right next to him the entire time. So
Okay.
like with him, it really is. It is like time spent. Like
Yeah.
we could be flipping rocks over in the backyard, searching, hunting for bugs, right? Like it could be watching him just collect sticks in the neighborhood and just drop them into swords. Like it's like little things like that, but he just remembers. And we'll be in bed at night, man. Like I read to them every night. Like we have like bedtime and nighttime routines. But we lay there and then we just kind of talk about our days. And he'll just point out these memories. Dad, you remember when we went fishing and I fell in the water? Like different. Like he remembers this stuff. So it's such a, just continues to reinforce the importance of showing up, right? To number one, ensure that he's feeling loved and he's feeling like he has that support and just guidance. But also it just makes me feel great. My love language also is like kind of quality time and just kind of being in the space and sharing space with somebody, man. So I see he's definitely kind of picking that up. My youngest one, man, he doesn't want you touching him, man. Get off me. He's hitting people with the Heisman as he's walking through rooms, man. So I'm still unsure what he's gonna morph into. But the older one, definitely, man. It's like, and he's such a little mush too. He's a very empathetic, very kind kid. He's always giving compliments. Dad, you look great in that outfit. Like he just like words of affirmation are also a big thing. So spending time and just kind of complimenting and bumping up his self-esteem, like I just love it, man.
Isn't that fun when you have kids that start to compliment and you're like, wow, it's really nice. Like Sawyer will say stuff to Julie and I can literally see her like blush a little and she's like,
yes. So true, and it's amazing. It just melts your heart. Like you say, my little guy Bernard, man, he'll like be snuggling in bed with us, man. He'll put his hand on his mother's face and he's like, Kelly, you're so beautiful, and I'm just like, wow, that's so nice. Like he just it's such a cool thing. Like they're becoming little humans who have this feeling, who understand. They make us feel good. Like it's a cool concept to me, man. And I just learn so much more every day about it, man.
He'll also look at Julie and be like, I don't like that.
yeah. They're also some of the most honest people, right?
Exactly. Yep. And she's like, wow, all right. My favorite, when was it? It was probably last year. I was taking him to school. Gave him a kiss before he got out. I had a full day of meetings. And I gave him a kiss and he goes, oh, Dad, your breath smells. So like, ouch, but thanks for the tip. I'm going to the gas station. I'll get some gum.
Thank you, Sawyer. I appreciate that. Yeah. Exactly. And it could zing, too. It could zing. Yeah, I hear you, man. I feel like there's some of the most honest individuals on the planet. So if you want some truths, if you want some true stories, man, go to your little ones. They'll keep it a buck with you.
It's such a beautiful thing, though, of like keeping them, like what's the right way to say it, but just not stifling that at all, right? Like keep being you.
Yeah,
is what I want to keep telling the kid. I keep telling Sawyer, and you're probably the same with your kids. It's like they're gonna grow up with so many other people throwing things or telling them, no, don't do that, or oh, that wasn't very nice, or blah blah blah. And it's like you got to work through that a little bit, but don't lose whatever made you.
100%, man. Like Sawyer's one of one. Bernard is going to be one of one. And there's a quote. I don't remember the exact way it was phrased, but it went something along the lines of, I'll give you the paraphrase version. There's two versions of us, like who we were before we went through life and who we were after the world got its hands on us. Right. Mm-hmm. So how I kind of talk to and hope to be able to raise, my son is that, we as you said, we have these 18 summers, right? We have this little amount of time to really kind of imprint or help him kind of discover these values or of these beliefs about himself, the sense of self. And then he's going to leave our doors and spend more time outside in the world, being influenced by other friends, other forms of media, right? Other interactions. And you're definitely right, man. I think it's we try our best. We try our best before he walks out the door, man. But there's going to be so many things that try to knock that sense of self. There are going to be so many things that try to make him become something else, or just rather move into a line or in the direction everyone else is going in. But I think there's something really special about helping your kids understand that they have secret sauces that make them, but that also allow them to
Oh, yeah.
like put their special, unique signature on this world, this canvas of a world that we live in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want him to paint Picasso's with his swag, with his sauce. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
and I think it's so important to help them, understand what their identity is, understand how it makes them special, and then understand how to get out into the world and utilize that to get out and impact the world in a good way. Because that's what I want to raise a young human who leaves this world a better place than he left it, that he received it, rather. So
where did you get that perspective?
I'm big into gratitude. My mother. So like, my mother and my father too as well. Like, my father was so he was a joyous individual, man. He walked into rooms, he was the life of the party. And I just always just see how his laugh just like, it just shook a room up. And
Mm-hmm.
you just couldn't help but smile when you were in his presence. Then I had a mother who was just always simply like, she always told me I was special. Like, just lack of better words, she just used to always say, Soji, like, there's something different about you. So I grew up in the projects in the Bronx, man. I just grew up in an area there. It was very, in terms of negativity and violence in other ways, it was very stifling in that aspect. But my mom would always kind of wrap me in this bubble of positivity and essentially say, when you get out into the world, just people respond to just good energy, but also karma's big, right? Like what you put out is what you're going to receive, and what you say into the universe, what you do in the universe. I firmly believe that it's circular. So
Yeah.
I always try to leave interactions with people and have them feel like a better version of themselves, right? Or have them feel something like a spark when they leave having a conversation with me. And I love people. I love connecting with people, and I think I personally like always being uplifted and complimented and made to feel good about myself. So I also have the rule of like, if you love it to yourself, maybe, try to do unto others as you would like that. So that's kind of been my rule, so to speak, as I move through life. Like, be the first to smile, be the first to ask someone about, how they're doing, be the first to offer advice or a way to support someone. And
Mm-hmm.
it's done pretty well for me, man. And it's, I hope to still that with the little ones.
Was there ever a time, I guess, growing up? So now you're leaned into Soji 100%,
Oh, that's it. That's it,
right?
man.
Like
Mm-hmm.
like you're you, like you said, one of
Yeah.
one, running with it. I was just talking to a buddy about that this morning. It's like
Yeah.
there's only one of you. You don't have to be
Yeah.
apologetic. He used to describe himself as unapologetically himself, and he's like, I don't even know why I said unapologetically. Like, I don't
Exactly.
need to apologize or
Yeah.
not apologize for who I am. I just need to be me.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a time where you were ever like, well, I need to fit in because I want to be in this little gap, and were you able
Yeah.
to pull yourself out, obviously, but like,
Yeah. One
how
hundred
did that? I
percent,
mean,
man.
how
Yeah.
you said you grew up, projects of the Bronx.
Yeah.
I'm assuming there was a little disconnect on the type of person you are versus what people wanted you to be.
100%, man. So, and I'd say I had various checkpoints in my life, so to speak, where you just tried to kind of fit in, but you were kind of redirected. Like, number one, I was younger and I was surrounded in this environment, like just where I grew up, man. I'm talking like between poverty. Like, I remember being 7 years old, dude. I'm talking about waking up and stomping on the floor, roaches are scattering, so I could go use the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm
Mhm.
talking about being 9 years old and I'm on a basketball court, dude runs on semi-automatic pistol, starts shooting on the court, and I have to grab my sister, jump on a bike, and ride home. You know what I'm saying? So
Jeez.
this is not, I'm not gonna say daily life. I don't want to exaggerate it like that, but I had several instances like that growing up. But I luckily I had a 2-parent household. That's one thing. I had two parents spitting me amazing information about my capabilities in this world. And exactly like you said earlier when you were talking about Sawyer and how you want to just keep his imprint, right? Keep his special sauce and help him understand that he's unique. My parents, I think, did a really good job of that when I was younger, right? Like they every
Mhm.
day before I stepped out, it was, you can do great things. You're capable. You are high functioning, right? And that carried me through certain points, man. And I'm gonna say in my adulthood time, I remember immediately leaving college, study biology, and originally I was going to go to school for physical therapy, right? So I'm training, I'm running around the city trying to build up my business while I'm going back to school to try to get my DPT. And at this point, it's I have this understanding of what my core values are as an individual, but I didn't really understand. I wasn't really living in full alignment with those core values. So I'm not really prioritizing sleep. I say core value was family rather was a core value of mine at the time, but I wasn't answering calls from my father. I'm not really spending time with people close to me. And then my father dies of a heart attack at 52 years old, out of nowhere, right? So this is a point for me where this is the guy I thought would be in my life for my entire life, and he'd be throwing my kids over his shoulder and hoisting them in the air with that same boisterous smile I was talking about. And that was an immediate wake up call for me in terms of, we all, not to sound morbid, we got this kind of ticking clock that's leaning over our shoulder. It's going slowly around, but we don't know when that time bomb is going to go off. So that was a moment for me of you can't just wing this thing, and you can't just wing it. And then number two, you are what makes you special in this world. We weren't put here to just play it safe. We weren't put here to just be like the next person, else we'd have the same genetic makeup and we'd look the same, right? Like, we're all different. We all have these unique stories that could propel us to the top, or whatever our version of success looks like, if we're willing to buy into that vision of ourselves, you know? And that was a moment for me of just, wow, like, number one, this is what I say that is important to me, but how am I actually living my life? And at that point, I think as well, it was just success looked, it was financial, it was this, it was this, it was this, and I was just head down, just going into that. And that really was a moment that made me take a step back and reevaluate what success was to me. And I found that when I actually started living in accordance with that, my life just became more successful all around, in terms of relationship, in terms of finances, in terms of, getting the right people circulating into my business stratosphere or ecosystem that really resonated with me, right? But it just all kind of fell back onto me being Soji, and not trying, like, being the kind, being the generous, being the always first to help, right? Being the compassionate individual. Like, so that I definitely agree with you on that aspect, man. Like, being yourself, being unapologetically yourself, it'll help you propel in any aspect of your life that you're chasing after. Like, I firmly believe that wholeheartedly.
That's just a beautiful way to put it. And when we think about the kids in general, on keeping them uplifted and spiritual, and
Yeah.
like we said, unapologetically themselves, it's such an important thing to keep them from going down the wrong path, because when they get to school, there's kids, there's other family dynamics, and it's like, we've got to have a core set of values, like you said, and our actions have to line up with the values.
That's it.
I would argue that your kids got two pretty good parents here that'll follow along with that pretty well. But along the journey of your two kids, so you do strength coaching and meditation.
Those are two foundational pillars of the Soji James octopus right now. Two foundational arms.
Okay.
A lot of arms, man. A lot of arms.
So how did you fall into those, and how did you kind of build your business around those? And then also with the kids, like, give me some time frame of when all this kind of took place.
For sure, man. So I played college basketball, and I grew up actually as a this is another one of those foundational I guess stories in life for me. I was so sorry. So foundational stories for me. I'm just gonna plug this laptop in. Apologize. So for me, when I was 10 years old, I was this like a little overweight kid. I was an overweight kid, but I didn't realize I was overweight or big. I remember in the 5th grade, I had a trip, and we went up to the Poconos. I went with my entire graduating class, and we went out to a swimming pool. There was one point in this trip. So I'm the last kid out to go to the swimming pool. So I'm like, Pokemon was like hot at the time. When I was like 10 years old. So I got my Pokemon towel draped over my shoulder. I'm like coming out to the pool, latest kid out there. All the boys are lined up one side, all the girls are lined up on another side. And eventually, I take my towel off, and everyone looks at me. Ew! So right there at that moment, it was like that I would say, if we talk about body image and body awareness, that was the most insignificant I had felt in my life up at that time. So if I had like an invisibility cloak, I would have threw that over the shoulder. If I had a rocket ship, you wouldn't be talking to me right now. I would have been gone. I would have went to another planet. I wanted to leave and disappear from that room. But from that moment, that was like I like to call it my superhero origin story, right? So I started kind of following my brother around. My older brother was playing basketball, and I kind of got into sports. I got a little more athletic after that point. And eventually it was good enough to go and play in college. So I got to college, and at that point I was the opposite. I was like this real thin kid, and I was introduced to the weight room by my strength coach at the time, Keith Kenny. And after lifting, man, that was the most confident I had felt in my entire life. Like, it's not only just how it changed my body physically, but it was the cool part of just like a couple of things, man, like going in and pushing through this discomfort, this controlled chaos, and coming out on top, right? Mm-hmm. Going in and putting yourself under this duress to become something greater, something bigger. Like, you just left there feeling empowered, showing up for yourself. So I was like, man, like, I walked into bars differently. I walked into give presentations differently at school. I was like, everyone should have this feeling. Everyone should have it. So at that point, my strength coach was like, hey, man, we're actually going to host this personal training certification here on campus. You should give it a try. Like, if nothing else works after college, it's something you can bounce back on, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, yeah, why not? So I started training, students at the campus. I started teaching group fitness classes for students on the campus, training faculty. And upon leaving, I wanted to originally go straight to physical therapy school and get my DPT. So I was working as a physical therapy aide, and it was a lot slower pace. It was a lot slower. So I was kind of working there, and I started training on the side too as well. And I was like, I just love this. There was something inside of me that was just like, it was just pulling me towards it. I was gravitating there so much more. But at the time, once again, when we talk about not living in alignment with who you wanted to be, I used to look at a trainer as an insignificant position, because that's how it was generally looked at by outside people. Oh, you work out all day. Oh, this is this. And so I kind of was saying, yeah, I'm training right now, but I'm going to go back to school for PT school. Right. And then I had a father who was an immigrant, and his idea of success was like, dude, if you want to be successful, you have to be a doctor or a lawyer, or you're wasting your time. So I also was hearing these messages from him, just kind of like, what you're doing is a waste of time. You're not changing lives. You're not impacting anything. Stop doing it. So, there was this conflict, which was another point of why I was kind of ignoring some calls. But eventually, he, as you said, he passed away. And that was just this wake up call to really fully step into why I was put on this planet. And for me, it's like being this uplifter for other human beings, to help them write their own stories, right? Take back the pen in their lives and write a life story that they'll be proud of. And I do this through wellness. I do this through just strength and conditioning, help people feel empowered in their body so they can go out into the world and just do epic things. And what I found too, in terms of the mindfulness component, when my father originally passed away, I'd been running away from all these feelings and thoughts and emotions. And just even prior to him passing, like I could have just had conversations and just said, hey man, like, this is important to me. Like, this is big. But I was afraid. I was afraid to do that. So I just kind of instead walked around with this chip on the shoulder. And meditation, once he passed, it was my beginning process of going internally to be in healing. So
have you ever meditated before that?
Yeah, not. I did. So like, my mom introduced me to meditation when I was in high school. I'm not going to say like I, shaved myself bald and just, started saying cross-legged and going crazy, but I was familiar with it. And I'm going to say in college, here and there, I would kind of, dabble in it. But I'm going to say after my father passed, it became like a ritual. It became a consistent practice that just really helped me begin to process a lot of the emotions, as opposed to ignoring them, right? And trying to do other things to help me drown them out, right? To help me face them head on. And that's why for me, man, like, in terms of getting the body in order and having you feel strong and empowered, but also understanding that having a clear, a calm, emotionally managed mind is also a powerful tool to have in this world. Like, once again, to spin it back around to how we talk about the kids and their understanding of self as they step out into this world. I believe if there's no enemy within, nobody outside can hurt you. If you understand the power that you possess when you walk into rooms, I think you'll be much more likely to, once again, keep this bubble of, as humans, other words and things that other people do, they impact us. We're human beings, right? But being able to also get back to a baseline, being able to separate your thoughts and feelings from your actions, and the thoughts and feelings of other people to the actions that you take, I think are extremely important. I think those are all things that meditation and living a more mindful existence help out with. So, the meditation for me really changed my life after my father's passing. And I was like, this is something I already do every single day. And I see it pays dividends in how I show up as a business owner, how I show up as a father, right? As I show up as a partner, the level of patience and emotional intelligence, and being able to pause and actually think about things before I react. Because how I react when I'm in my most challenged moments, and my kids see it. That's how they're gonna learn to
Hmm.
react in their lives. So I think meditation has been just all around tool that's helped me show up as a better human being on this planet. So I firmly like these are things I do. Like I lift there. I lift. Not gonna say every day, but I'm a consistent lifter. It's changed my life. I consistently meditate. It's something that's changed my life. And if it's helped me, I really kind of try to push out the benefits to the rest of the world. To be honest, so because I want to live a life of impact.
That's so. What went through my mind when you were saying that, and especially like if you're confident from obviously the way you feel, you have
Hmm.
stronger mental
Yeah,
capabilities of just like I can handle these things. See, if someone says something about you, or
yeah,
they're like, oh, you're not good at this. You should go get a real job, whatever. To
yeah,
every entrepreneur who's ever started a
yeah.
business, someone says that,
Exactly.
and yet
Touche.
somehow everyone's like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur.
That's a good point, brother.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
yeah. You want to be an entrepreneur until something goes wrong, and you're just going to ridicule people. But
Yeah.
the way you brought business about and kind of harnessed I want to do meditation, I want to do strength training to build people up. I look at it of like you're building up a baseline for people. If they have a
Mm.
low mental, like if they get crushed by outside voices or internal
Yeah.
voices or past things, it's like their baseline when they go, if they're riding high and someone knocks them down, their baseline goes low.
Yeah.
If this person's riding high and they're working with Soji and they have a strong mind, they have good meditation, their baseline might be here.
Yeah.
It might get
Yeah.
knocked down a little bit, but you
Yeah.
have that new baseline where it's like, dude, no, I know exactly where I am. I'm
Yeah.
confident with my mind, my abilities, my strength. Like that's such a higher bar already. You don't have to try and make that up.
100%.
Like you're just starting,
100%.
and we're all human. We're all going to get, words hurt, actions
Yeah.
are tough sometimes.
Yeah.
We're all going to get down every now and then. But if you have a higher baseline, like you're talking about, that's huge.
Yeah. 'Cause I think life is not, it's not linear in any process that we undertake, right? So a lot of times people think success looks like this line that starts at the bottom, just cascades straight to the top. But, it's really this squiggly line that you hope this consistently just goes up over time. And as you said, man, we're all human. We're all going to you could be this consistent lifter and then you could hurt your back one session and you got to sit out for a while. Now, how do you
Mm-hmm.
respond to that? Right. So somebody who doesn't have this strong baseline, they're like, I'm never going to lift again. Oh, this is terrible. Maybe I'm afraid to even go back into a gym because of this. But if you have this strong mental baseline, you can begin to look at past successes. You can begin to look at past times maybe where you were knocked down, but you still were able to make a comeback. So I think the two of those go hand in hand. And, I appreciate you celebrating me too as well. I mean, you're the
Mm-hmm.
man, brother. But I think too, like, we like our mind is the foundation. Anything we create inside of this vessel here, we could begin to project in the real world and bring it to reality. So I think the two of those play such a powerful hand in hand. And if you neglect one, it's really they hold each other up. I think they're yin
Yeah.
and yang.
Well, it's so refreshing from a standpoint of when you think of personal trainers,
Mm-hmm.
you think of meatheads who are just trying to get you to
Yeah.
lift super super heavy weights.
Yep, yep, yep.
Where you're like, yes, you should lift super heavy weights,
Yeah,
both physically
yeah,
and mentally.
yeah. That's it. That's it. And I
Right?
think too, like, no,
That's
I totally agree.
that is a
Totally
step.
agree.
That's a step, in a total different direction of what
Yeah,
what
yeah,
others think of. And I think what some personal trainers do, they're
yeah.
like, well, I build muscles.
But yeah, there's
And it's like,
so much more than that.
yeah, but gosh, you're going in so much deeper
Yeah,
on
yeah,
building someone up,
yeah.
not just so you can, go from a 35 weight to a 40 weight.
That's
Like
it. It's deep.
I want you to change your life with your kids. I want you to have a better baseline at work to deal with problems
That's
because you
it.
have the confidence. And
That's it.
yeah,
That's it, brother. Because I
that's
feel like
incredible.
wellness is so multidimensional, right? So
Yeah.
if you think you're just gonna go into a gym and build muscle and all your solutions are gonna be had there, then you're gonna be in for a rude awakening, right? But there's just so much that
Mhm.
goes into it. So when I come and I start working with somebody, I think a big important thing for people to begin to understand or begin to question is what are their core values. And your core values, think we all have goals and we have core values. So our goals, they may tend to change throughout our lives. And not to say that core values don't, but those tend to be a lot more deeply rooted, right? And they're built based off, when I say core values, just, what you believe about yourself, what you believe to be true in this world, what matters to you, right? The type of person you want to be or become. Like those tend to fall into that category of your core values. And when we understand those and we're clear on those, we have these guardrails that are able to steer our direction in terms of choices we make and actions we take, right? A lot of times when we're living more in accordance with what these core values are, we feel not only better about ourselves, we feel good, right? But you also get out in the world and you do great things, right? So I find that when people first started working with me, I ask them to get clear on what their core values are. And then to understand the current goal that we're working on, because goals may change, but what's the why behind it? What is the why behind that, right? Like you mentioned, you talked about being able to solve problems at work, feeling more confident. We talk about fatherhood here, right? Being a stronger dad, being able to just hoist and toss your kids up in the air and crawl on the ground and feel pain and beat them in sprints. Like Bernard, he's gonna have to earn that first win, right? Like, but like that's a really important thing. Is I feel like when you're trying to change anything in life, change is difficult, right? So you come into the gym in this moment of control chaos where people are trying to, say, to lose weight, get stronger. You're going to have to be challenged. You're going to have to force yourself to adapt. And I think life is very similar in different ways, right? So if we can understand our why, we can understand what our core values are, it's going to become much easier to show up to the gym and do the hard things necessary for change. Also to do so more consistently, because change takes time and it's very easy to lose motivation. So, but if you're clear on why you're doing it, why you started in the first place, whenever you're kind of climbing this mountain and you're looking at Everest at the top and you want to kind of stop and turn back, you can look at those whys, you can look at those values, and it'll help you maybe just pull over to the side of the road, rest, recharge, and then continue on your journey. So, I'm definitely big into, before we start even lifting weights, it's getting clear and setting your mind up for success long term. It's getting people to buy into that concept first. Is I find that the people who do take that part seriously, they're the people who tend to find a lot of success. And they're the people who also tend to find out, a lot of times people come and they're like, I want to lose 10 to 20 or build this. And they really think that's going to just transform their life. But it's really the process itself that it's changing your sense of self. It's changing what you think you're capable of accomplishing. It's getting clear on what you actually want more of in your life. These things are such transformative concepts for certain people that extends beyond, fitting into a pair of jeans or going up 5 pounds in your body weight, your squat. So
yeah,
that's what I find.
The journey versus the destination.
That's it, man. That's it. You're constantly improving. You're constantly getting better.
That's super interesting, because I was thinking about this. I run into this with Sawyer on where we're trying to do something, whether it be building a Lego or doing something, and he gets so focused on the end goal part of it, right? And he's like it's got to be perfect, and I'm like I've got to bring him back to, we're here together enjoying the moment of doing this. It's not the end result so much as it is the journey. And he's like, well, yeah, it is fun to sit here and play with you and blah blah blah. But I feel like I got to remind them, especially when they're young, it's like they see something that they want to get done and they're like, I got to get this done. It's like, we got to remember that the journey is where, yes, the hard work is, but that's where you learn the most. That's where you get to cherish the most things.
I think that's powerful.
You don't, you don't hit a PR in the weight room and be like, I'm done. And be like, that's the only thing. You sit there and you're like, dude, I remember when I was almost throwing up and they were like, don't you dare give up. Like, you do better for yourself, blah, blah, blah. Like, or you're sitting there in meditation and you keep falling out of it. Right. And you're like, I can't keep bringing myself back in. I keep thinking about a million things. All of a sudden you can just fall back into it if you practice enough. And that's the part that is the most important.
That is it. That's seriously, man. You nailed it. Because that in itself, you fall out, you come back. That is meditation in itself. That's you being mindful and understanding that you treaded off. So that's the main point of it. You're hitting it.
My meditation's like every 30 seconds. I'm like, no. Come back. Come back.
But that's it, man. You're doing it then, brother. You're doing it. And honestly, I love that concept.
Maybe you know this. I don't know the science behind it. But how much energy does it take for meditation? Like, do they measure it on like calories burned? Because like I'll get done, like you get done with a busy day and you're mentally exhausted and
Yeah.
you're just drained. Like, is there a certain, and maybe there's not, but just between meditation versus a workout in general and like
Yeah.
how the body responds to
Honestly.
work,
Yeah.
is there a physical and mental work where it's like, gosh, they're
I would like to look up certain science. I definitely don't. I haven't come across any as of yet.
okay,
But in terms of caloric expenditure and that
yeah,
aspect of things, but I mean, there's definitely study after study that shows it actually shifts like the actual physiology of your brain, right? In a
hmm
sense of, for example, if you're someone who is quick to respond negatively to something, like be extra reactive,
mm
there's a portion of our brain that is attuned to that. And those people, when meditating consistently, they become less reactive to said stimuli, right? So there's different ways in that aspect that we are shifted on, like even a neuromuscular level, and just like made to feel more calm and more in control and less. When I say reactive, there's this whole concept of fight or flight, right? So
yeah,
when you feel like you're in danger, or and it could not just be like like lion chasing after you, also just be in a highly stressful work environment, we tend to have some physiological responses to that. But people who meditate consistently, their baseline is going to drop much lower. So they're not as riled up from these same situations as they were prior. Like there literally is a whole neuromuscular shift where these same situations, they're calmer, right? So I think in that aspect, there's measurable change, but it isn't caloric expenditure. But I feel like the two of them definitely go hand in hand, right? Like I won't say to somebody, man, if you're trying to build a ton of muscle, not that there isn't mind body connection. Like there's certain other studies in terms of visualization that actual I was thinking about this other study that just came to my mind for piano players, right? Like they had a control group that actually physically practiced. They had another control group that visualized that they practiced. And there
hmm
wasn't much different in the improvement when they actually retested it. Like, so it's crazy just what you can do with your mind, even though it's
yeah.
not caloric expenditure, if that
Well,
makes sense.
I've seen it too with I've seen studies on like weight training and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
or different physical activities versus you just doing it in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they're not that far off.
It's wild. It really is wild how powerful the mind is. And they say the mind's it's a terrible thing to waste. Like it truly is. Like it's crazy what you can do if
So
you tap
I
in.
just imagine you're sitting there and you've got two people who normally would be the same, and this could go for anything. I'm using
Mm-hmm.
weight training because it's a great example of it. It can be
Mm-hmm.
for the way you communicate with people, blah blah
Yeah.
blah, whatever it be. But if you got one guy who's doing some reps and he's like, I'm never gonna get stronger. I'm never gonna get stronger. This is a waste. I'm never gonna get stronger. He does his reps, and then you got another guy who does the same reps and he's like, dude, I'm getting jacked.
Yeah.
This is working. Like I'm already
Yeah.
feeling it.
Yeah.
I've got to imagine that the guy thinking more positively,
Yeah.
and I think the studies do show this
Yes,
of
they do.
how much
Yes, they
more
do.
everything will be better. Muscle mass,
Yeah.
energy, mental states.
There's
It's
countless. It's
crazy.
wild. It really is wild. And the thing with the zinger with that is most of us don't even pay attention to our self-talk, right? Like it's such a
Yeah.
normal thing that we do. So I feel like that's another benefit of meditation, right? It really just kind of helps you be more in tune with the thoughts that are gravitating around. Like I tell people a lot, you have to tune your mental garden, right? So all the weeds that are kind of sprouting up in there, most of us don't even kind of pay second attention to them, but our thoughts dictate our actions. The actions that we repeat over and over, they become our habits become our reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're able to kind of catch it at the forefront, like when it's a little seedling and kind of reshape some things and shift some thoughts and some attitudes, I think it could pay dividends and really be a powerful transformational thing in anyone's life.
And how do you suggest people do that?
So with me, I love, like, I think mindfulness in general, like mindfulness is just you being tapped into the present moment, right? And being able to separate yourself from, as we talk about, the things, the thoughts, the actions going on outside of you, not allowing them to impact you, but also being able to be present and understand what you're feeling and thinking in a particular moment, and not allowing that to dictate your actions as well. So just being fully where your feet are, right? So there's several ways people can go about doing this, right? So some people, when you think about meditation, I feel like once again people have this this firmly rooted idea of you having to sit cross-legged and sit in silence. But there's so many different types of meditation, right? Some people prefer to move, so they do a walking meditation. Some people, they may just get out into the woods or get into a grassed area and just do some mindful movement, right? Like it's just this moment in time where you're just connected with yourself, right? Some people might prefer to do a gratitude practice where, once again, maybe they start their day where they're finding 3 things that they're grateful for in that moment, or maybe they like to do it at nighttime. Some people like to journal. So for me, I would say starting small with one of those things to build a practice for yourself is really important, and be given it time. So for meditation, I would say setting a timer for 5 minutes, finding a nice corner in your house. It doesn't have to be a fancy setup, but maybe I found that a lot of times when we tie an area to a habit, it just becomes much more consistent in that way, right? So you set a timer for 5 minutes, and a baseline technique is called mindfulness of the breathing body. And it's just beginning to focus on the pathway of that breath, right? Maybe it could be in through the nostrils, like that space in between the top of your lip and your nose. Maybe you're focusing on the rising and falling of your belly. Maybe you're focusing on what you feel in your heartbeat as you're going through this, right? But whatever it is, you're focusing on that one point. And I love this technique to start out with because it helps us begin to develop focus and attention. They say that one of the best gifts you can give anyone in this world is attention. And when we're doing meditation, we're giving ourselves attention, right? Like we're really tuning in. And I think from there and really starting to expand, start at 5 minutes, you'll be shocked at what that could do for you. So starting small. If the mindfulness thing and sitting, if the meditation thing is not your thing, then I'd say maybe try to play around with a little gratitude, right? I feel like a lot of times too, we can walk through our life and we have this negativity bias where we tend to amplify the things that are going wrong and place so much more attention on them. And I feel like whatever you focus your attention on, that expands. So if we go the opposite way and we start to write down everything that is going right, everyone who's showing up for us in our life, as opposed to people who are deserting us, everything that our kids are doing very well, instead of where we feel like they're making mistakes or messing up or getting us frustrated, that starts to amplify. And that just changes your life. It changes the scope through which you view the world. So those are 2 of my foundational pillars, and I highly recommend somebody start with 1, 2, maybe even both if it floats your boat.
I was going to ask you for a little tip, so I really appreciate you doing that, on how people can just get started on it. And I encourage all dads. We all tend to be a little more short fused, I would say.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's a little easier for me to go from a 0 to a 10 a lot faster than my wife sometimes. But how can, and I know it's not your area of expertise, you're not a parent coach, but as a dad, how could we implement a little stopgap between us getting frustrated at our kids? They do something stupid. Now, I should rephrase that. They do something we perceive as stupid. It's great for them. They're like, I'm fired up for this. And we're like, 100%. No, you shouldn't be. But what little stopgap can we put in there to be like, nope, this is before I go up here.
Yeah.
Like, what's the practice?
Honestly, meditation, I've said that's been the most transformative thing for me in that aspect, because I totally agree with you, man. I've become so much more tapped into how I'm feeling in the moment, as opposed to, in the past, something would happen, I'd react, and then I'd think about it later, and I want to walk it back and go in and make a different action, but we can't, right? Like each time you show up and take an action, it's permanent, no matter what it is that you did, right? But for me, I really feel like meditation, in addition to, we talked about the whole aspect of I'm sitting meditating, my thoughts are flowing, and I come back to my breath. That's me just realigning focus. A big thing about meditation is in the moment when something's happening. Like I could be having a conversation with my wife Kelly, and say we disagree on something, and I could I could feel myself in real time, maybe getting a little bit agitated. Take a breath, and I am allowed to, or rather, it helps me make a choice of showing and responding in a more way conducive towards supporting a healthy relationship, right? So same thing with my kids, right? Like if how they see me interacting with their mother, how they see me interacting in the world where something happens, that's what they're going to see. So meditation for me is really, it's the power of the pause. That's a lot of times what people call it too, like that pause, that gap in between stimuli and your reaction to that stimulus is very important. And if you just learn to sit with your breath, you learn to begin to start. I journal as well. I'm really big into that. So I start my morning each day with a journaling session, and immediately after, I write things down. Oh, I start with a meditation session, and then immediately after, I go into journaling. I'll set a timer for 5 minutes, and I just begin to get my thoughts out onto paper. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? Just these are other ways to just get in tune with how you're feeling. I feel like we also are raising a time where, like, guys, in terms of showing emotion, talking to other men, talking to anybody in general about how they're feeling and their problems is looked down upon. But I feel like right now we're in a point where it's being talked about, the importance of it more. So I say that too, man. Like, if you're trying to just be able to improve that pause, not allowing things to get like piled up and pent up inside of you, and finding releases is really helpful for that. Really helpful for that. And the meditation will change. It'll be a game changer for your life. I'm telling you.
The power of the pause with the kids in the moment, it's hard. And I tell this to Sawyer too, and I say it to myself too, but we talk about broken glass.
Yeah.
On the way you react to something. So if he blows up at me, or he says something, not nice, or I blow up at him and I get angry, and we say, we're like, that's broken glass. You take a mirror and you shatter it on the ground.
Yeah.
Could you piece it back together with glue and piece it? Yeah, but there's cracks in it still.
Yeah.
It's a permanent thing.
Yeah.
You can try and heal it with as many sorries as you want. But our goal, and what I always tell him, I'm like, we want less shattered glass. And so the quicker we can, before we hit that point where it's like, we don't want it to shatter, we don't want this door to break, I've got to do a better job. And the 7-year-old, I can, they're dealing with so much stuff. They're going to blow up.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're 7.
Yeah.
They're 4 years old. They're 10. We're adults and we're having trouble controlling our emotions. Give the kid a break, right? And I struggle with that too still. I'm like, you disrespecting and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, the kid is 7. Like,
you're a human, but I hear you, dude. Yeah.
So I constantly think, and I actually hear shattering glass in my mind sometimes. That. And it does. It hurts my heart sometimes if I do blow up and I'm like, that's shattered glass, and I literally can hear. And I'm like, don't do that again.
I appreciate that analogy.
Better next time. Yeah. I'm not perfect. There's always times with that, but thinking about and catching, and I think that's where meditation can really help.
100%.
It'll make you think more, take that deep breath, and help
you to slow down. Help you to slow down instead of. And I love that analogy, so I appreciate you so much, brother.
Yeah.
Broken glass, that's powerful.
Yeah, you think about just slamming down a sheet of glass in front of your kid, like they're going to freak out. They're not going to like it. It's sad. It's loud. It's like, well, that's what happened. And that kind of brings a tear to your eye if you think about doing that in front of your kid out of anger. Yeah. Because that's what they see, right? They see turmoil, and chaos.
Yeah.
So the meditation, I think, is such a beautiful way to do that and avoid as many of those as you can.
Yeah, and I think, as you say, like, we're human, right? So I think understanding that anything you're trying to change, it won't be linear, right? So it exists on this continuum. So I think also giving yourself compassion and being able to generally reflect, right? Like, so it's one thing is in any situation to just say sorry, and then there's another thing to actually take a step back and deconstruct. What led you to get up into that point, right? Is there something that you held back that you could have communicated better? What didn't you understanding about a certain situation? Did you put yourself in another person's shoes? Were you empathetic? So I feel like there's other ways to kind of look at the same situation and gather so much more out of it that can be utilized for future occurrences, right?
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Those are some fantastic tips for us dads, and tapping into our sometimes struggling emotions of us. I mean, we're all trying to run businesses. We're trying to provide. We're parenting. sometimes it feels like, how am I raising a kid?
I understand that wholeheartedly.
But my
Wholeheartedly, I
God,
understand that.
I've so much enjoyed our conversation, because this has been just from a standpoint of what'll move the needle for dads,
Yeah.
just the awareness of power of the pause, the taking some breaths, and your kids will just see that and be like, Dad was really calm with
Yeah.
this. Maybe next time I'm gonna get angry. I'm gonna do what he did, because he
Yeah.
seemed like he had it together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they're watching everything you do.
That's it. Like you're the leader,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
you gotta just think about it. You're in you're working at a company, or you're looking up to the CEO, and this person is everywhere. They every at the tilt of every gust of wind, their sail is being shifted in a different direction, or their foundation or house is being blown over. This leader
Mm-hmm.
doesn't inspire you that much. You probably really be scared to be underneath this, like this business, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I look at it like that. Like if I'm being looked at as this pillar or of confidence, right? Like how can I show up in these moments of turmoil and show up as my
Mm-hmm.
best self? How can I
Yeah.
show up, or at least a closer to the version of what I would want my best self, or what I want my kids to show up? How do I want them to show
Mm-hmm.
up or learn how to handle situations? And I really feel like
Yeah.
being
Oof.
able to tune into ourselves a little bit more and how we're feeling and our emotions, as opposed to just pushing them down. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a very powerful tool, and being more mindful will definitely help you with that, for
It
sure.
it just it reminds me, and how you said that, it reminds me of a in the Bible, when they talk about you build your house on sinking sand, or you build it on a rock. Do you
Yeah,
want your emotions and your kids to see your emotions and your emotional state on sand, where it's shifting, and one day you're here, the other day you're over here?
yeah,
Or when you build that emotion with intention through
yeah,
meditation and thoughtfulness, and
yeah.
you're more on that rock, and you know that you can just kind of handle things and then
100%.
work it out from there.
Yeah, because they know what more to expect now, right?
Yep.
So it also allows them to
Mm-hmm.
exist from this point of a little bit more control in their aspect. If they understand, like, they're less fearful, dad's not going to explode on me, right? Like, I'm
Yep.
allowed to make a mistake, and I know he's going to have my back, right? Like that's the kind of house I want them living in, like where we all mess up, we all make mistakes, right? Like,
Yep.
but tying this back to what we originally talked about with your sense of self and understanding your true source. Like, if they
Mm-hmm.
have this environment where they feel safer and they feel like, I'll be able to be who I am without being like, my house being pelted with rocks, like, they're
Yep.
more likely to show up as that version of themselves and understand that they'll mess up and be off sometimes, and that it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
so I think that's powerful as leaders of our household. And I think it's powerful to have our emotions in check and understand,
Mm-hmm.
that, yeah, how to articulate our emotions and how to, find other outlets to get those things out. So
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. Before we wrap up, because we're about an hour here, I want to finish on one final question for you.
yeah,
What does being a father figure mean to you?
being a father figure, I'm gonna say, to me, it means being somebody who goes out into the world, leads with kindness, goes out into the
Mm-hmm.
world, and they're they're that ideal version of themselves, and they're doing it in front of their kids. They support, they uplift, they, I don't know. They go on. They like I step out into the world, and I want my kids to see me being an individual who leaves the rooms I go into as a better room than he came in. Right? Because I feel like when they see me doing this, they see me chasing my dreams. They see me create an environment that allows them to live their dreams out to their fullest. They feel fully supported, and I just want to be an individual who just supports the loved ones around me. And I work as like a conduit of good energy, good vibes, and just like support. That's been a father figure for me, man.
That's
Just showing up in
beautiful.
these ways.
That's beautiful. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
No, I appreciate, honestly, this, as fathers, whoever's listening, man. And if you're running a business, you're being a dad, wherever in between, it could just get overwhelming at times, right? It could get
Mm-hmm.
extremely overwhelming. It could feel like the world's on your shoulders. I don't think we're told this enough, but if you're listening, you know, the fact that you're seeking out this information to try to continue to improve, you're doing an amazing job. And I want to thank you so much for having me on the podcast and having this conversation with me, brother. Like, you know, in our interactions, you are nothing but smiles and love and good energy. And you know,
I'm
I
feeding
hope
off of you.
seriously, you're epic, man. So I'm really excited for everyone to continue to grow with you on your journey. So I'm tipping my hat because you're an amazing entrepreneur, you're an amazing father, and it's
Appreciate
been
it.
awesome to see your journey from the point I am. And I'm excited to continue to see you rise, brother. So
Appreciate
that's
it.
all I have to say.
Appreciate it. Well, where can everybody find your stuff?
You can find me on Instagram at Soji, so SOJI.James1. You can find me at SojiJames.com, SOJI James.com. Also on LinkedIn as Soji James, man. Please feel free to reach out, tap in with me, and connect further.
Love it.
I love sending love and good vibes.
Awesome. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Appreciate you coming on here. And as always, dads, these come out Tuesday mornings. So stay tuned to this one. It'll be coming out here in a few weeks, probably. But thanks everyone for stopping by, and we're going to catch you on the next one. Everybody, take care. Bye.
Take it easy.